Okay, so probably one of the most important things for the back and going to be for the checkpoint is to really pay attention to what the problem's all about. Is it add? Is it solving an equation? Or is it just plain simplify? So remember, the one big thing, when do you need a common denominator? Is only when you add or subtract. Okay? So when I look at 14, when I'm adding, I need to get a common denominator using a common factors. So this factor that we have in this denominator is x minus 2. This one we have to factor first into x plus 6 and x minus 2. So notice they have a common factor of x minus 2, but this one needs a factor of x plus 6. So I'm going to multiply top and bottom by x plus 6. Then that will be my common denominator, x plus 6, x minus 2. Then I'm going to distribute the top of x plus 6, x minus 1, x squared minus x plus 6x minus 6. Then I'm going to bring down plus, that's this one here, the right side. I'm going to extend this. And I'm just going to add my like terms. So x squared and x squared is 2x squared. Negative x plus 6 is 5 plus 4 is 9x. Negative 6 plus negative 4 is negative 10 over my common denominator of x plus 6, x minus 2. Final answer. All right. So a couple of ways to do 15. Notice that we've got to check for our excluded values whenever you're solving. So this is where x cannot equal 4. That also addresses domain. If a question says what's the domain, it's everything except for x equaling 4. All right, so you can do it, since we have one fraction on each side, we can just cross multiply. Distribute the right. Then I want to move everything to be with the degree, but I want the degree to be positive. So notice x to the third is my degree. So I'm going to move everything to the left side. So I'm going to minus the 4x squared from the 2x squared. I'm going to add the x to the third to the very front. So I want to start with x to the third because I moved it to the other side. It's going to be positive. Minus 2x squared, because when I combine my like terms, minus x, 8x equals 0. First thing you look for, GCF. Factor out the x. Factor your x squared, x and x, factors of 8, that's subtract to get 2, minus 4, plus 2. So degree 3 tells us there's 3 possible answers here, where x equals 0, x equals 4, and x equals negative 2. But remember, our excluded value is 4, so we're going to cancel this out, and these are my 2 solutions. 16 is probably the easiest problem on the whole page. factors of 4 that add to get 4, minus 2, minus 2. Remember, you can cancel a factor if everything's the same, except the order with subtraction, as long as you put in a -1. So this cancels this one out, and I'm just left with -1 over y minus 2. All right, here's another solving problem. So I need to factor the denominator, and my excluded values, both of these are the same, so I cannot have -1 as a value, and I cannot have +1 as a value because it creates a 0 in the denominator. All right, now I'm just going to multiply the entire equation through by the common denominator. So everything gets multiplied by x plus 1, x minus 1. So the x plus 1 cancels. I'm left with 3x times x minus 1. Everything cancels here, so I'm left with 12 plus 2 times, remember, x plus 1 minus 1 is just x squared minus 1 when I multiply these two together. Now I'm going to distribute. I need to get all of my variables on the same side because I'm left with x squared. So I'm going to move my 2x squared over to be with my 3x squared. 12 minus 2 is 10. So I'm going to also minus 10 from both sides, canceling everything out on the right. So combine like terms, x squared, I only have the 3x, bring down the -10, equal to 0. Now I can factor. Factors of 10 that subtract to get 3, minus 5, plus 2. So my two solutions are 5 and -2. Neither one match my excluded value. So final answer. All right, number 18 is just subtracting. That means I need a common denominator. So first, I factor my denominator, GCF of x. Factor out the x and you get x minus 5. GCF in the other denominator is 5. So they have a common factor of x minus 5, but the first denominator needs the 5. So I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 5, so they both have a 5. Now notice the right side is missing an x, so I multiply top and bottom by x. 5 times 5 is 25, minus x squared over my common denominator of 5 and x minus 5. Now you need to be careful because you want all answers to be simplified. So notice I can factor the top of this one because this is the difference of two squares. Notice 25 is first, so I need 5 and 5 first, plus x minus x. Now these match except for the sign, so I'm going to cancel these factors and put a negative out front. For my final answer. All right. So this one, we're solving because there's an equal sign. So I start with my excluded values. If I cannot have 0, because if I replace x with 0, I get 0 here. And if x is 0, 3 times 0 is also 0. So 0 is my only excluded value. Then I need to multiply by my common denominator. So we have 3x are the two factors we need to multiply by. So this x cancels here, and I'm left with 3 times 3, which is 9. Nothing cancels here. 12 times 3, x is 36x. Nothing cancels with the 2, which is just 6x. The 3x cancels the 3x, and we're left with 4. Then I want to get my x's together. My constants together. Reduce your fraction. So divide top and bottom by 5 because they have a common factor of 5. Does not match my excluded value. Number 20 is pretty straightforward. I just need to factor my differences squares, y plus 3, y minus 3. Remember, y squared is just y times y. So this plain y cancels out this plain y. The y plus 3 cancels. And I'm left with y over y minus 3. Here we have an equation. So I'm looking for my excluded values. X cannot equal 1 because that creates a 0 in the denominator. Now, let's think about this. What would make this equation true? Notice the denominators are already the same. I mean, technically, we could multiply through by our denominator. We really just want what will make the numerators true because the denominators are already the same. So just set your numerators equal to each other. So I'm going to move all of my stuff to the left because to get with my degree term, I get x squared minus 1 equals 0. I can factor my x squared, x and x, plus 1, minus 1. X equals negative 1 is a 0. X equals positive 1 is a 0. But remember, we can't use positive 1. So negative 1 is the only one I can use. All right, last one is a divide. So I need to multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm going to bring down this side, and I don't need to factor it. Multiply by the reciprocal. So this goes on top. This is the difference of two squares. 2y minus x, 2y plus x. And the top goes to the bottom. 2x plus y, 2x minus y. Any factor from the top can cancel any factor from the bottom. So 2y minus x and 2y minus x, 2x minus y, 2x minus y. Be really careful because this is 2y plus x. This is 2x plus y. These do not cancel. So that's your final answer.